Les ruego vayan tomando asiento para comenzar el acto, que vamos con retraso. Buenos días, por favor. Les ruego vayan tomando asiento. ¿No se oye?
If you could please take a seat.
Buenos días, por favor. Les ruego.
Good morning, everyone. Please take a seat.
Bien. Bien. Bueno, yo creo que podemos comenzar.
Okay, so I think we can start. Perfect. I'll give the floor. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to this event. Since we are running late, I'm going to give the floor to the Bank of Spain. Good morning, and thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Mar España. Thank you to the directors of the agency that are here today. Thank you to the Secretary General of the European Supervisor. Thank you to the EU colleagues. And thank you to the authorities of the different ministries and the industry representatives, which is key. Today we are holding the 30th anniversary of our agency that was created 30 years ago independently in an analog world. And today we present a project for the country, a project for which we have been working over a year and a half, hand in hand with very important organizations such as the National Securities and Competition Commission, the Royal Mint of Spain, the Ministry of the Home Office, the Ministry of Digital Transformation, the Public Prosecutors Agency, and also the National Bar of Lawyers and the National Association of Doctors, including the Association of Pediatrics. Never has the Spanish society consumed and spent more hours in the digital world since the pandemic, but also a greater amount of content. And in some cases, such as the population of minors and the youth and children, and thanks to the police forces that unfortunately see and suffer the effects of the abusive consumption, excessive consumption, and early consumption of violent content, of adult content, of pornography, there is a direct relationship between sexual rapists and predators with the consumption of violent content at an early stage. And there is a clearly medical explanation to this. The children are, the brains are maturing. The brain hasn't finished maturing until the age of 25. And the president of the Association of Pediatrics will explain that much more. And teenagers is a key stage in the creation of empathy and of our brains. So what are we doing as national institutions to protect youngsters, just like we protect them for the spheres of tobacco and alcohol? There's a lot left to do to protect them from the digital world. So today we are presenting a mechanism. You have all the information on the website, and I'll talk about it later. We have a mechanism and principles where the agency has demonstrated with clear practice in iOS and Android that these criteria are not just theoretical criteria, they will be implemented and they can be guarantors. Obviously, they'll be able to be improved, but they will prevent and save our privacy more than a third-party application or the question that's being asked to many people who are accessing porn, which it just says, are you overage? And that's all they have to do, just say yes or no. So given that we are running out of time, I'll give the floor to my colleague, and I would like to thank the Royal Mint and the CNMC, because without these two bodies, this criteria would not be practical and would not be at the availability of society over the next few months. Thank you very much. Thank you, Director, authorities, friends. On behalf of the National Securities Committee and the chairwoman, who is not able to be here, we would like to thank the Data Protection Agency for inviting us to be here and to participate in this 30th anniversary, and also to put at your disposal and knowledge all the measures we're taking in order to try and protect as much as possible access of minors to unwarranted content and damaging content. And thank you for inviting us 30 years later to this event. Thanks to what the Data Protection Agency has done, we can say that it has done many good things for our country. And the CNMC's presence here is not just institutional, it's a product of our collaboration, the collaboration we are doing to protect minors. We are aware from the CNMC about all the risks that the director has already mentioned, risks that all society are aware of, and things that unfortunately are risks that can be proven with the output of many studies that are being published regarding the access to damaging content by youngsters. Amongst one of our competitions in the CNMC, the new Act on Telecommunications and Audiovisual Rights, approved in last year, in 2022, provides new tools to make effective that minors' protection, and it includes as our duties not only to the normal service providers, but also those platforms and video exchange websites and media that may have damaging knowledge or damaging content for minors because of violence or sex. And they are obliged by law to implement effective protection measures, and the CNMC has the duty to make sure that that is implemented, that those duties are actually being abided by. And those systems will have to protect effectively minors, will have to prevent minors from having access to content that they shouldn't have access to, and they will have to fulfill the principles that have been made public by the Data Protection Agency today. Just quickly, given that we don't have much time, I would like to take this opportunity to talk to you as well as that instrument that we have to help to protect minors. I would also like to talk to you about another initiative set up by the CNMC, which is the use of co-regulation or co-legislation. This is an instrument that, based on collaboration, make sure that you're able to create alliances with those that implement the proof of age techniques and instruments in order to make sure that there are agreements also with those between the entities that have the duty to supervise and the platforms that need to abide by the law, to make sure that we can implement those systems. We are working to reach those agreements with industry. We hope that in the first semester of 2024, we'll be able to hold a meeting on co-regulation and co-elaboration in terms of data protection and minors' access to the internet. And today we open a public consultation. It's actually on our website, where we want to test with all the involved players the type of verification, was the state of art of the verification instruments currently on the market, and check those that actually abide by the principles published by the Data Protection Agency today, but that are also effective in what it really matters, which is what we have to do at the CNMC to make sure that they prevent minors from accessing that content. This public consultation is open now. We want to see what type of systems can be included. We can look at the different advantages and then look into the different criteria and communication that we can apply when we have to make sure that we have to supervise, when we have a dossier on our table in order to check, for instance, that videos exchanged on our platform are abiding by that age verification. And finally, I would just like to mention the pact, the State Pact on the protection of minors on the digital world, with the collaboration of Save the Children, UNICEF, and many other national organizations. Given the growing concern of society about the risks faced by children and teenagers in that environment, and the CNMC wants to go hand in hand with the Data Protection Agency, the Public Prosecutor's Office, and other authorities that have joined in this pact. So thank you very much once again for inviting us. And that is all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pilar, in the presentation of this. Thank you for your support of the CNMC, and I'll give the floor now to the chairwoman of the Royal Mint of Spain. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to fulfill one of the goals that as a public entity we have, which is to continue contributing to the service provision of entities that can be trusted. We provide services to different authorities when they ask us to be a tool to develop content, to make sure that we can provide access to citizens. And we have been known since the 90s for digital certificates, but we do much more than that. Our two main customers, we could say, or our two main, better said, computers are the police forces, the Home Office, and the Digital Institute. They provide us with they are our main customers. They provide us with the content that they need. And when the Data Protection Agency called us, I think they were right to do so, because they were aware that in order to develop any instrument that could be at the service of the protection of minors without limiting their rights and the freedom of adults to navigate and to access whatever content they wish to, it was important to be given by a service provider of trust. And we provide trusted services. We have also developed our work on identity, and that's why we said it was very important to have the presence of the Ministry of the Interior, the Home Office, and the National Police Forces and the Civil Guard, because we develop work for the identification of the national ID and mobile ID on our phone, because they've asked us to do so. And our idea of identity is so important to citizens that we have to protect their data, we have to protect their anonymity. We will never give right to others, we'll never allow them to do profiles or to segment customers or citizens or minors. And as part of our work, we do that. When we are developing the European digital portfolio and the identity credentials, and they tell us how we have to do the work in agreement with the instructions of the EU and the legislation coming from the EU. What's happened? When we have been called in the past to collaborate on this, we decided that we had a great opportunity, unique opportunity, because we have the two authorities that tell us how to do our work and also the criteria with the EU. So it's never been easier to have work. And we think we'll be able to provide and put at the service of citizens and companies. And I have to say that this is a tool that's going to make easier for internet service providers to do things with guarantees. And this is going to work for all operational systems. And we will be able to prove our credentials, and we will be able to see, and maybe some of the service providers will be able to do it with the same guarantees, but it will have to be the agency, the one that will have to decide whether the private entities can collaborate or not. So we will offer our tool. We think we'll be able to develop it, serving and maintaining all guarantees and fulfilling with all the requirements of the Data Protection Agency, which is not easy, to be able to bring together all the competent authorities on this topic. We'll be able to offer a tool with humbleness, but also with interest, because we are fully committed to this objective. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for your presentations. We conclude this first round and we move on to the next session. Given that we are in a beautiful venue, in the hall of the CSIC, I would like to call Mar Fernanda, who's the Joint General Secretariat of the CSIC, so that she can welcome us on behalf of the authority of that hosts this venue. Dear Data Protection Agency, Chairwoman of the Royal Mint, Member and Director of the National Securities and Competition Market, Directors of the agencies, authorities, it is an honor for me to welcome you to the CSIC. Due to the hosting of the 30th anniversary of the Spanish Data Protection Agency in a digital society where the exchange of information massively is, where there are many content and greater accessibility, we need to always bear in mind the rights of people. And in this sense, the CSIC provides its view, participating now for years on the space of study for artificial intelligence, where we host discussions frequently on this topic. The CSIC also collaborates with researchers aimed at the data protection and data privacy. So without further ado, we'll give the floor to Ms. Mar España Martí, the Director of the Spanish Agency of Data Protection, with a talk on the 30th years of experience of the Spanish Data Protection Agency. Thank you very much. Thank you to the CSIC also for granting us the use of this venue, which had much more room than the room that we have on our data protection agency. So 30 years is nothing, right? I mean, the agency was created in an analog society at a time when privacy invasion had nothing to do with what we have now. It was the beginning of the internet, and the beginning of the internet came with us. And this has nothing to do. The situation we had in the 90s has nothing to do with the situation that we see now and the issues we're working on now. And I had to go with the agency. I started working with the agency in the last third of its life, and it's fantastic to be able to work with the work done by my predecessors. The global village was the result of the interconnection of the globe through the electronic means. We are facing a social transformation without precedents. This has great advantages. Technologies bring us closer. Technologies is an engine of economic growth, is an engine of communication, and the Spanish Data Protection Agency has in its DNA the support of technology from a healthy perspective and respecting the fundamental rights to privacy. Technology can help social needs and meet social needs, can transform education, can have a clear involvement towards our health, but if it's misused, it can have important risks. And never before has humankind been affected, even more so with the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. I will not be able to talk about the brain interfaces and what can now be decoded in terms of the neural connections, consciously and unconsciously. But never before in this history of humankind have we been so vulnerable due to this digital invasion that we have, especially minors, because they are on the brain transformation process and they are especially vulnerable. And from the time when the agency was created, at a time when we were in an analog society and where the complaints were, we received about 84 to 90 complaints per year. Now we've seen a huge explosion. In the last 3 years, we've doubled. We have 22,000 complaints in average. We have double what we received in 2020. And the most important complaints have to do with the impact of internet or biometric data. And this is changing how we see in reality and our habits. 5 years ago, we couldn't even have imagined the possibility of being able to read the thoughts of someone else or modifying someone's behavior with the use of technologies. This can be done now in terms of health. This is miraculous and fantastic, but in terms of control by companies and a totalitarian authority, we are putting at stake our right to mental privacy, and we have at stake the democracy and the rule of law in a globalized society. And I also wanted to say that in this field, the regulation on data protection has been a turning point in a clear commitment by the EU to guarantee this fundamental right. Also, the agency is making a great effort to guide all our strategies, and in the framework of the GDPR and SDGs, and in the framework of this guarantee of our fundamental rights. But we cannot do this on our own, and that's why it's really important for me. It hasn't been easy, it hasn't been swift. We've been working on this for 18 months, but we have to reach an agreement. As the chairwoman of the Royal Mint has said, we have to all the national authorities reach an agreement, and this cannot be done just with the public commitment. We also need the involvement of private companies, and that's why it's very important that we have here representatives of the industry of the internet, technology, telecommunications, the professionals on privacy, and also representatives of families, because this has to do a joint commitment. It has to be a joint gamble between the society and the authorities. The EU is betting clearly on its digital agenda and all the legislation, such as the GDPR, the legislation on artificial intelligence, or access to digital markets and digital services. And the public authorities the public authorities that have to do with data protection, are working hard. And I would like to congratulate Ms. Anu, the chairwoman from the European Agency, for all the work that she's done and her agency has done in order to prioritize the challenges of artificial intelligence and neural data. In the agency, we have two options when acting, and we try to combine them. On the one hand, prevention, and on the other hand, corrective actions. We have carried out national research and European research in line with the vulnerability of minors. I am surprised by the amount of complaints we have received over the last few months in the agency. I see part of the team. We have 200 people that are working hard every day. Thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the Data Protection Agency. And we are receiving complaints that I never thought we would receive. Complaints from minors that can be taken to court. And the national police forces unfortunately know that too. Minors that are using artificial intelligence tools when they're 9, 10, 11 years old to publish false profiles of their female colleagues, sexual harassment and sexual rape carried out by minors, kids that are 11, 12-year-olds, and this is increasing. And this is because of this early consumption and uncontrolled consumption of certain content. And it is clear that minors are not ready for this and are not protected. We have carried out research on the porn sites that have headquarters in Spain. Obviously, we protect the freedom of surfing by adults, but as we said in the press conference, we have done well with regards to alcohol consumption and tobacco consumption from minors, and we protect them in that sense. But we have a lot to do, and all the ministries that have competition or jurisprudence over this legislation, they have a lot to do to protect minors from early consumption, abusive use in terms of hours on the screen, and non-quality consumption. When we talk about adult content, violent content, or pornographic content, or even access to gambling by minors, we are not protecting them enough. So we are starting to sanction these websites. None of them had age verification control instruments, and together with the EU agencies, we are starting to do investigations, for instance, in Pornhub, its headquarters being in Cyprus. So this applies also to game consoles, and we are also trying to inform families, because moms and dads normally respond for what the children do on the website, but there's not just responsibility on the cloud, there's responsibility on earth, and there is responsibility with fines up to 10,000 euros, and hopefully that'll raise awareness. It's very important what we are doing, supporting this Pact of the State. There'll be a roundtable specific specifically about the State Pact. And I would like to say that the early consumption and abusive consumption of screens is leading to damages in the mental, psychosocial, and physical and sexual health of teenagers. We have teenagers that have been more medicated than ever, with rates of depression that are incredible. I'm sure the chairman of the National Pediatrics Association will talk about that. And what is company that provides service to teenagers obtaining out of it? Well, it gets a captive audience, an audience that will stay with them forever, and it's obviously something that will profit them in revenues. So it's not just about protecting the neurodevelopment of our minors, it's about much more. And sometimes an image is worth more than 1,000 words. And so I would like to show you a short video. And I'm not sure if the technicians are ready. They are ready. We can watch that. I would like to thank the Spanish Association of Digital Transformation as well for the content. Let's watch this short video, 3-minute video, on the impact that this excessive use and abusive use and uncontrolled access to certain content can entail in minors.
Pues yo espero. Todavía sí. Ahora sí.
Well, I hope that we have managed to raise awareness with this video, with this gathering. I'm not going to go into the detail of the requirements. We will have a panel on that, but I do hope that during this term there is a consensus among political parties. I think all political parties have to support the protection of minors within the digital sphere. This State Pact has to be already in Congress, and we hope to be able to have a law to protect children and teenagers in the digital sphere. Thank you.
Bueno, pues muchas gracias, Mar.
Thank you very much, Mar. Thank you to Pilar Sánchez and to Isabel Valldecabres for their presentations. I think you are free to leave the panel. We will move on to the next presentation.
Bien, tenemos con nosotros la suerte.
We are fortunate enough to have the President of the European Data Protection Board with us, Ms. Anu Tallis. If you can please join me up here.
Ayer mismo estuvimos.
Yesterday, the director of the agency and myself were at the plenary of the EDPB presenting the criteria that we presented this morning in front of the committee, because we understand this not only has to be national solution, but also a European solution. And we hope that these criteria will be a good seed for the European discussion to be able to reach a European solution on this matter. So without further ado, I would like to publicly thank the President of the EDPB for her leadership, for giving priority to the most important matters that have a direct impact on the more than 500 million Europeans, and to inform that these criteria have been presented to the responsible of the European Commission and other organizations, and the responsible for the minors group at the European Parliament. We believe that this is not a national matter, taking into account that this has an impact on children and teenagers worldwide. We hope this will be a model to be implemented in Europe. Thank you.
Dear Mar, ladies and gentlemen, señoras y señores, it is a great pleasure to be here today with you to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the AEDP. Over the past 3 decades, AEPD has become a major and well-respected institution, not only in Spain, but also on the European scene. Its many important decisions to protect fundamental rights and freedoms are well known in the data protection community and beyond. The AEPD was a respected member of Working Party 29 under the leadership of José Luis Rodríguez, Artemi Raolo, José Luis Piñar, and others, and since 2018 of the European Data Protection Board under the leadership of Mar España. We have a long history of working together at EU level. I'm therefore kicking in an open door when I say that in the implementation of the General Data Protection Regulation, 5.5 years ago has marked a key shift in the role and the competencies of the data protection authorities. As a direct result of the GDPR, cooperation between EU data protection authorities has intensified. Today, data protection authorities work together on a daily basis on hundreds of cross-border cases, and so far we have reached decision in over 1,000 one-stop-shop cases. In Spain, an increased awareness of data protection rights led to a record 15,128 complaints submitted to the AEPD in 2022. This high number of complaints is testimony to the fact that Spanish people are eager to protect their rights, due in large part to the AEPD's many successful awareness-raising campaigns. A high-risk area in which the AEPD has been particularly active is the protection of children. With the number of children with access to the internet and to the wide range of devices steadily increasing, AEPD's work can inspire other regulations in the EU and beyond. AEPD has been doing an important work to promote age verification systems that comply with the principles of the GDPR. For example, by ensuring data minimization and limiting the amount of data that circulates online. The age at which children are exposed to digital content gets younger and younger. Their access to inappropriate digital content can have a lasting psychological impact, and in general, this issue has a far-reaching societal consequences. Mar presented the AEPD's very interesting concept at the plenary meeting of the EDPB earlier this week, and proposed to explore together what we can do, what can be done at the EDPB level. It was met with a great interest by other data protection authorities who were very supportive of this work, and we will now work on a more concrete proposal. We will continue our very valuable exchanges so we can jointly ensure that verifying children's age online is done in a way that does not infringe upon their rights and interests. The Aepd also firmly keeps its finger on a pulse of what preoccupies Spanish citizens and has over the years become one of the most active data protection enforcers in the European economic area. In 2022, the Aepd imposed no less than 378 fines, which is the second highest number in EU member states, for a total of 20.7 million euros. Aepd's busy national agenda does not stop it from playing a very important role in the European Data Protection Board. I want to thank all the colleagues from the Spanish Data Protection Authority for their continuous efforts and motivations as part of the European Data Protection Board. Joaquin, and of course, Rafael, also Enrique and Pablo, as coordinators of the compliance, e-government and health experts, as well as all the other colleagues who actively participate in the EDPB activities. The GDPR is a powerful instrument and generates high responsibilities in the hands of the EDPB and its member authorities. It is on special occasions like today that it is important to remember the personal and specific role each of us has played so far and keeps playing at the EDPB. Each data protection authority brings its own very special contribution, and it is this synergy that makes the EDPB. Indeed, this anniversary is not about an institution. It is first and foremost about the hard work and determined and enthusiastic staff who day after day make huge efforts to promote compliance and enforce the GDPR. In Brussels and in Helsinki, we are highly appreciative of the knowledge and dedication of the staff members of the Aepd, and we have the pleasure of working with these colleagues. They do so under the leadership of the Mar España Marti, my much appreciated colleague, who has been leading the Aepd since 2015. And with whom I had the pleasure to share a panel in October during the Global Privacy Assembly. The staff of the Agencia do their work with the conviction that the privacy and the protection of personal data are prerequisites for human dignity. Protecting these fundamental rights is the guiding principle underlying the Aepd's work. I personally want to thank all the Aepd staff, and I know I speak on the behalf of the whole European Data Protection Board when I say that we are all looking forward for the coming 30 years. Feliz cumpleaños.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Anu, por tus...
Thank you, Anu, for your kind words.
Pasamos ahora, al siguiente punto de la agenda.
We will now move on to the next item of the agenda, the first panel.
Dedicada al Pacto de...
This first panel is on the State Pact for the Protection of Children in the Digital Sphere, impact of electronic devices on health and privacy of minors. We will have Ana Caballero, Vice President of the European Association for Digital Transition, Rosa Maria Enar Hernando Garcia, Prosecutor of the Minors Unit, Patricia Rodríguez Lastras, the Computer-Related Crime Prosecutor, Julio Albalad Gimeno, Director of INTEF, and Luis Carlos Blesa Baviera, President of the Spanish Association of Pediatrics. Thank you. If you can please join us up here.
Es un placer compartir.
It is a pleasure for me to share this panel with experts and friends. I know that they have been strongly committed to the protection of minors. We will first of all give the floor to the president of the Spanish Association of Pediatrics. Considering that we are running late, please 4 minutes per presentation. Congratulate the Spanish Association for the family plan that they've brought forward, showing the maximum hours of screen viewers that minors should have to be able to respect their adequate development. Congratulations on your work. You have the floor. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. There's debate, discussion at many levels in schools, in governments, in families with regard to the impact of electric devices on health. If there's a stage that is particularly vulnerable that should be matter of concern, it is the age between the age of teenagers. This is a matter of concern for pediatricians. This is important, especially with regard to having a preemptive approach. During the stage, when children become adolescents, there can also be an impact on the psychoaffective and neurological development, taking into account the importance of having healthy habits. Data with regard to the risk and use of devices are quite alarming. This is going to be commented several times during this gathering. The average age of accessing these smartphones is below 11 years of age. Many teenagers and children devote more than 5-6 hours a day to these screens, and this has to lead to serious concerns. We also have small rules, few rules that regulate this behavior. We also, as adults, do not give the right example within society with regard to the adequate use of these devices. The easy access to smartphone, the early exposure to digital sphere can mean that these minors can access harmful content, and this can lead to surprising data. In Spain, the age of access is 8. At 14, this is common for them. We have different ways of expression, images, violence, inadequate language, etc., that promote negative behaviors. This can also include fake information that can make our children confused. They don't always intentionally search for this content. They just find it when they're browsing the internet. This has consequences, many negative impact. It has an impact on their well-being, can lead to dangerous behaviors, and even have an impact on their physical well-being. Taking into account the growing social concern on the access to these devices and the high vulnerability of children and teenagers, it is necessary that us, as pediatricians, join other organizations with regard to tackling this new responsibility by offering information that is based on evidence. We have to offer also homogeneous arguments when right now there are being different proposals put forward to be able to reduce the use, such as within schools. The digital work group in this regard, belonging to the association, and together with other international scientific associations and considering the available scientific evidence with regard to the impact of the digital sphere on the health and development of children, has brought forward the Digital Family Plan. This plan has been elaborated within the association. It has also had the participation of the Aepd, taking into account also scientific evidence. We are bringing forward guidelines for families to be able to help them educate children with regard to the responsible use of screen. Depending on their age, different guidelines, number of hours and use of screen that also have an impact on the cohabitation at school and in the family. The plan is aligned with the strategic plan brought forward by the Aepd, raising awareness, minimizing also the impact of the Internet on freedoms and rights. With this, I hope that we all join forces. As pediatricians, of course, we will collaborate together with the Aepd towards this important goal. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Luis. Y qué importante que
Thank you very much, Luis, considering that the next steps have to be taken forward together. With this, we will give the floor to Ana Caballero, the main promoter of the State Pact, Vice President of the European Association for Digital Transition. We hope that this pact will soon be a political reality. 4 minutes, so you have the floor. Congratulations to the agency on this celebration. I'm very honored to be able to participate at this event. I also wanted to thank the firm support that we have received from the Aepd, taking into account the launch and the constant support with regard to measures that are going to be part of the State Pact to protect children, and especially to be able to allow us to raise awareness with regard to the protection of minors within the digital sphere. 10 minutes ago, we've seen a video that included headlines from 2021. Sadly, press headlines are in our press every day. It seems that right now there's more awareness, more concern, and this is why we think that this matter is urgent. We need to take certain measures, hopefully consensed, as Mar has mentioned, supported by all the entities that are concerned by minor protection, also involving the industry, politicians, and public administrations. This action was promoted by the European Association for Digital Transition. We have the institutional support of the State Attorney's Office, and I wanted to publicly thank Pilar for the institutional support of the National Commission on Markets and Competition. We are very thankful on behalf of the 150 entities that have adhered to this pact. We are leading this action. It was promoted by Save the Children, UNICEF, AENAR Foundation, ICF Media, and Dale Una Vuelta, among others. We all were present at several events, and we were concerned by these headlines in the press. We had different areas of specialization, but we all agreed that it was an urgent matter. It had to be regulated. We needed public policies to be able to tackle this challenge. We all know that devices, technologies open many opportunities to adults and children, but we also know that a use that is non-responsible can lead to problems such as compulsive use, can have an impact on our physical, mental health, generating also depression, anxiety, addiction. And this can also enable violent situations such as school abuse and bullying. For this reason, if devices are not used responsibly, can also give access to inappropriate content. And for this reason, we consider that these measures have to be adopted. The State Pact that include measures to be able to protect minors within the digital sphere can be consulted on the webpage. You will be able to see the pact, the 15 measures that I will detail now, with more than 150 entities supporting this initiative. And also, you will have the possibility of supporting this measure by disseminating this campaign. We have measures in different areas. We have health, education, and the responsibility of all stakeholders. Health, we consider that a compulsive use of devices has to be treated as a public health problem. An addiction for a family can lead to a cost of €3,000 per month to be able to take care of a case of addiction. So we need public policies to support, to prevent these situations. We need to adopt measures to support pediatricians and doctors in the prevention and support. Education is also essential. It is the biggest parental control that can exist. Minors have to be educated within the responsible use of technology, and we cannot put all the blame on teachers and parents. The industry is also accountable, and the industry has to take into account that these services and products are not designed for minors. We are asking them to be responsible, to be ethical, to design these products and services taking into account the age of minors with transparent algorithms, to create technologies that can confirm that the interest of minors is above any other matter, above economic interest, etc. I know that we have many more measures. I think I have to end this presentation. Thank you very much. I encourage you to visit the webpage with all the details on these measures. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Ana.
Thank you very much, Ana. I'm sorry that we have such a busy agenda and that we're going so quickly. I also wanted to publicly thank all the NGOs working on this matter and the State Attorney's Office. We've been working with the minor state attorneys and the computer-related crime unit. With this, I will give the floor to Rosa Maria Henar Hernando, and representative of the State Attorney's Office. Thank you very much. We've always considered this State Pact was essential. It entails the collaboration between many stakeholders. Taking into account my specialization, the minors unit, we work with those minors that come to us. First of all, they need to be protected. They've already suffered violation of their rights, or they have themselves committed a crime. They're all at risk. In many cases, prevention and protection has failed. Taking this into account, knowing that minors are still developing their personality, this leads to the importance of having gradual education. This has to be respected in the virtual sphere too, and this is why we have to set limits. Let's focus, taking into account that within this society we have minors. We've always wanted to protect them, but there's also an important part that we are leaving aside. We have this physical sphere. We know it well. We've been working in this sphere for many years. Let's think about the premises that have been adopted within the sphere to be able to convey them to the digital sphere. There's a capacity complement that has been regulated with regard to consent, with regard to data protection. Why do we have to have this capacity complement installed? The vulnerability of minors has to do with their age. The age states the development of the minor, and a minor is, of course, immature. This capacity complement is necessary to be able to take into account all the consequences of his or her acts. Limits. We have learnt that within the physical sphere, without rules and limits, we are leading to unhealthy behaviors. Our minors are at risk, unprotected, and also the importance of the minor's interest above any other interests. If we convey this to the digital sphere, taking into account a coordinated action of all stakeholders, we will have the minor's interest as the main principle within the digital sphere. If we set these principles, we will have the virtual sphere complement and develop the growth of minors. And we can never allow the digital sphere to replace the educational sphere. When all of this fails, what are we finding within the protection and the reform spheres? We are leading to the fake belief that the digital sphere is there to listen to others, etc. And this entails risks for minors. With regard to reforms, a sort of empowerment is generated based on the fake anonymity on social media. This means that there's a bigger breach and gap with the victim, and this leads to cyberbullying cases. We also see that data transfer is an image transfer that can take place in the physical sphere and in the virtual sphere, and the vulnerability of minors is made greater. They become easy prey to criminal groups, and they can also be used as victims. Finally, to add that an early access illimited to certain platforms, to certain contents, specifically porn content, if it is not accompanied by an ethical educational support to minors, this means that these contents are not fulfilling their goals. If we don't have other educational contents provided to minors, this can lead to distorted sexual violent behaviors based on submission. And this also leads to access to platforms. Minors can create their own porn contents. This means that in real life, this leads to unethical illicit behaviors. We need to coordinate the action among all stakeholders. It is the only way of conveying good practices to our minors, healthy practices with regard to the use of the internet and social media. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Rosa, por la capacidad de
Thank you, Rosa, for your ability to synthesize and for the clear message you have given. And now we're going to give the floor to Patricia Rodríguez, representing the Digital Crime Public Prosecutors Institution. Thank you very much to my colleague for the concerns that she meant for the Public Prosecutor's Office to take into consideration all the problems that are presented in the State Pact. Why? Because as my colleague has clearly expressed, minors are not ready for the access to the digital world. They are not aware of the impact of their acts or of their problems that they will cause others and the consequences of their acts. However, sexual predators are. They organize online. There are transnational networks that capture minors based on their possibility to access apps in their normal environment. And the minors confuse the virtual and the physical world. And that's something that sexual predators know. They look for them in those environments where they spend their life, in online games, in the social media, because let's not kid ourselves. The permissiveness we are having on an early access for online devices without control makes it easier that those who are going to harass them and abuse them sexually can have access to the children, and at the same time force them to bring in other minors and to commit more crimes with those other youngsters. So just mentioning, your parents will know the first image you sent to me when I faked to be a minor of your age. It's such a big threat to victims that it goes beyond that. They are convinced to do whatever the predator wants. Everything that the predator wants are incredible and horrible things that are worse than what you can see on the adult pornography pages. That's why the Public Prosecutor's Office supports this initiative from all perspectives, and it collaborates with the Spanish Agency of Data Protection on all the dossiers in order to protect minors from this point of view, and thanks the fact that this is being mentioned here today. And thank you and congratulations to the Aepd for 30 years to the protection of the digital space. Thank you very much.
Pues muchísimas gracias, Patricia.
Thank you very much, Patricia. I've also found that the Minors Public Prosecutor's Office and the IT unit are working to analyze, and I would like to thank also the Home Office for seeing how they can legislate the National Criminal Code in order to take a step further and to include this, the protection of children and teenagers. And now we'll give the floor to someone who's really important, Julio Albalad, the director of the INTEC. I'm aware that the Ministry of Education now has also other people, high senior members in an event outside of Madrid, but the Aepd carries out the technological training in state-of-the-art, and it's important to have a schools detection instruments to detect addiction to the internet or the use of mobile phones, and looking also into health impact. When we have a digital, it'll be great to have a digital app at the service of the children, just like when we go, it's not just about data privacy, but also the impact on the health with the help of pediatricians. So thank you, Julio. Go ahead. Thank you. Congratulations. The Act on Education states that the digital means can be a valuable source, but that we will have to establish limits and conditions in order to prevent risky situations in the school environment. We are totally in agreement with everything that's been said. The minister in the sector meeting between the schools and the ministry stated that we need to talk about the limit of the use of screens in schools. It's no mobile phones in primary and in the infancy, but also in secondary schooling. And any use of the screens have to be assessed. But it's all down to the autonomous regions. Many autonomous regions for now have regulated on this. And what we want to do is to have a state pact between the different autonomous regions and the Ministry of Spain so that they can develop these initiatives. We understand the risks on the use of mobile phones. We could talk about pornography, mental health risks, bullying. But we also need to understand that technologies are much more than the use of mobile phones. We need to teach students how to use the different devices that they have. We need to understand that the safest space for them to use digital technologies will be in the high school. Many times they connect to the Wi-Fi on the school, and the school Wi-Fi limits access to certain sites. So we are the tool for them to access and get to know the internet. We know that the reduction of the presence of mobile phones will improve the coexistence, will improve the social skills of children during the party times, and will also improve and reduce the bullying or cyberbullying. But we need to be aware that, and we know that 75% of the time devoted by children to the internet is outside of school. We talk about the area where we are, the schools, and the national curriculum includes the digital skills of children. Now we have digital skills in all our national curricula so that by the time they are 16, they are able to have a safe, healthy, and critical use of devices and the digital technologies. But that stops at 2:30 p.m. If at 2:30 p.m. they leave the high school and they go to a different world, there's nothing we can intervene. But yes, they need this training, and yes, they need the prevention. And that's why it's so important with the proposal that we're hearing here. It's desire for a whole society, and it's something we have to contribute with. And a last reflection. It has its risks, obviously, and the technologies have been mentioned, and we've seen the bad things about technology, but there are also good things. In the PISA report, they said that moderate use of technological devices improve mathematics skills. Let's do training. Let's teach children how to use the devices. It doesn't have to be mobile phones. Digitization goes beyond mobile phones, and the children will live in a digital world. Let's teach them how to do it, and let's go with them hand in hand. So when they leave the school at 2:30 p.m., they have that digital skill, digital knowledge, not to talk to strangers on the internet. So thank you very much, Mar, for your initiative. Thank you. Well, I think we need to thank all the speakers and the institutions they represent because the support they are giving to the Spanish agency in order to move forward with this criteria. And I think this is something that cannot come just from an institution. It needs the strict and close collaboration of all of them. And this is an example of good collaboration between all the institutions. Thank you very much. Now we have a coffee break till 11:45. Please come back on time so that we can start on time too, because there are many also speakers on the second roundtable. And both the members of this roundtable and the members of the Spanish Agency in Data Protection are here for you at your disposal if you need any clarification. Thank you.
Reanudamos la sesión a menos cuarto.
We come back at 11:45, please.